It's no secret by now that Animal Crossing New Horizons has become one of the most loved Animal Crossing games of all time. It came out at a time when the world was not looking too great, and like many people, you may have turned to Animal Crossing for an escape. Since the game was released, there have been several updates, but the last major one came out in 2021 in the form of the 2.0 update. And in case you haven't done the maths on that, that's almost 3 years ago. With no more updates expected for the game and Nintendo being tight-lipped on what the next title could look like, it's no surprise that you've been speculating when the next game will come out and what it may look like. So what I'm going to do in this video is examine the timelines and share with you when I think we could be seeing a new Animal Crossing game and why I believe it may be coming out sooner than you may think. We're now at a point where we're patiently waiting for a new Nintendo console, or impatiently like me if you're just waiting for a shiny new console to fill the space you've made in your living room. An announcement of the next console is due soon, and I'll be honest and say that this is the most important part of when we can expect a new Animal Crossing to come out. Nintendo has never released two Animal Crossing games on the same console, and in all honesty, I doubt they're about to. As a result, the first question we should be asking is when Nintendo is planning to release the next console. The Switch has been out since 2017, which now makes the Switch 7 years old, and that's a long time to have a console. When we first had rumours about the next console, it seemed like the original plan for Nintendo was to launch this new console at the end of 2024. But for reasons that haven't been revealed, this has now been pushed back into 2025, with different sources suggesting that we'll be seeing the console released in the first quarter, which makes a lot of sense as it wouldn't be the first time Nintendo has launched a console in the first quarter of the year. Indeed, the Switch launched in March, so it is entirely feasible we could be seeing a console in the first part of next year, but I'm starting to think this may be unlikely. The biggest tell for this is that at the time of writing this, we haven't had an official announcement from Nintendo on the new console, and Nintendo have been really quiet on any new details. The last we did hear was in a tweet from the president of Nintendo that information about the new console will be revealed in this fiscal year, which means that we could be waiting for an announcement up until the end of March next year. Any tweets for major announcements from Nintendo since have made it clear that no details on the new console are going to be announced during the event, and this would make sense. Nintendo will want to have the first announcement confirming the existence of the Switch 2 be a full-scale direct, but the last one of these was in June. And if Nintendo were planning to release the next console in March, they would want to announce it in September or October to build up the hype before the big release. However, there were some interesting updates as of the last Nintendo showcase that we had, which was both an Indie World and Partner Showcase, and that was dropped at the very last minute last week. Now, we were preemptively told that there would be no news about the next console within this announcement, and we didn't see it. But something strikes me as odd about the showcase. For one thing, Nintendo has never put these two events together, they've always been separated. The events themselves were both shorter than they typically are and featured a lot of smaller games that are planned to launch this year and very few games that were announced for next year. This to me could be an indication that Nintendo is gearing up for an announcement of the new console soon. I've long suspected that we may get an announcement in September this year, but I'm still on the fence as to whether or not that will happen. However, Nintendo combining both Indie World and the Partner Showcase feels like we may be getting a console announcement either in September or October of this year. If that were to happen, I think the console would come out in March or April next year. The other thing that I've noticed, which points to a launch of either March or April next year, is in Nintendo's sales figures. We had the announcement from Nintendo's president in May 2024 that fans should expect a new console announcement this financial year, and I managed to find the Switch sales for the first quarter of this year, which shows that Nintendo sold 48% fewer Switches than last year. I am guessing, without seeing the full breakdown of numbers, that this is mostly impacted by the announcement from Furukawa, because the statement would have come out very early into their quarter. So in terms of where the Switch is going to perform sales-wise for the rest of the year, I think we're going to see a console announcement sooner rather than later. However, there is also the other side to consider, which is that normally a company like Nintendo wouldn't make an announcement of a new console before Christmas, because then you'll harm the sales of the Switch over the key holiday period. There is still the possibility that Nintendo will wait and announce the console's existence in a teaser before Christmas, but not give any concrete release dates until March or April before releasing the console in November 2025. But given what I'm seeing and how Nintendo is acting right now, I'm edging more towards a Q1 release for the next console. So if the next console is coming out in 2025, will Animal Crossing be a launch title for this? We've already waited so long for a new game, and if I've already said we get one Animal Crossing per console, then we should be getting a new Animal Crossing at launch, right? Well, in all honesty, it probably won't happen. When you look at the history of Nintendo launching Animal Crossing games, Animal Crossing has never been a launch title for any of their consoles. The closest we ever got was with the first two games, which were both released about a year after the consoles launched. But even with New Leaf and New Horizons, both of them launched over 2 years after their respective consoles got released. With that sort of history, the chances are that a new Animal Crossing won't be coming out at launch. However, what I can't see Nintendo wanting to do is wait 2 to 3 years before releasing a new Animal Crossing game after we get the Switch successor. The biggest reason for this is in the number of copies Animal Crossing New Horizons has sold in comparison to the previous games. So far, New Horizons has sold more than half of the total of all Animal Crossing games and has sold more than double that of New Leaf, which was the previous best-selling game in the Animal Crossing franchise. To add further fuel to this, Animal Crossing New Horizons is the second best-selling Switch game of all time and is only second to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and is outselling other major Nintendo games like both Splatoon games and Super Mario Odyssey. Nintendo is not going to ignore numbers like this. Granted, the number of copies New Horizons sold will be inflated by lockdown, as we know that Switch sales also spiraled at the same time as New Horizons launched. But still, to see this big of a difference in performance is going to be a big indication to Nintendo that there are a lot of people waiting for the next game, and if they were to wait to release a new Animal Crossing, I think they would potentially harm sales of the next game. Indeed, there are some really big signs that we're getting more news about a new Animal Crossing soon. We've had 8 Animal Crossing LEGO sets come out, with another 3 coming in January 2025, and there have been collaborations with various different aquariums across America. We've also had both Pocket Camp and New Leaf servers go offline or be announced to go offline before the next Switch launches. This is very, very different for Nintendo, and when I first heard about the LEGO, I wrote it off as Nintendo trying to keep people interested in Animal Crossing for longer whilst they were working on the next game. Now having more information about when the next console is likely to come out, I'm wondering if the decision to move with these was done as a means of preparing us for the next game. Yes, it is sad that New Leaf and Pocket Camp are losing their online functionality, as it means they are coming to an end, but I do think this means good things are coming for the Animal Crossing series. And if you want to hear my thoughts on that, I'll link a video above I did recently on why losing Pocket Camp is a good thing for Animal Crossing. But I do think the team are going to be working on some really exciting add-ons which could make the next Animal Crossing better. So when will a new Animal Crossing game come out if we shouldn't be expecting it to be a launch title for the next console? Right now, we don't have any concrete information. There was a rumour that came up a few months ago suggesting a 2026 release, and being honest, I think this is the most realistic. 2027 would be 7 years since we had New Horizons, and I don't think interest in Animal Crossing will still be there in 2027. So a 2026 release seems more than likely, given how many copies of New Horizons have been sold so far. I don't think Nintendo is going to wait until we get to the midpoint of the Switch successor's lifespan to launch the next Animal Crossing. If a new Animal Crossing were to launch in 2026, that would mean the game would be out about a year after the console launch, which would then put the launch cycle back to what we saw with the first couple of games in the franchise. Personally, I feel like this is about right. Yes, it sucks that we still have to wait for another year before we'll be able to play something new, but there will be more time for development that way, and I don't know about anyone else, but it feels better that we have to wait a little bit longer to have a properly finished game than one which comes out at launch and is half finished. I am planning on doing another video soon which goes into some of the rumours that we've heard in a little bit more detail, as particularly now given we've lost Pocket Camp, there are a couple of exciting little tidbits in there that I think could potentially make it into the next game. So if you'd like to see that video when it becomes available, please don't forget to subscribe so that it goes into your notification feed. Whenever the next Animal Crossing game does come out, I'm fairly confident it will be one of the best games in the franchise. Given the success of New Horizons, the developers are going to want to build upon the foundations that have been set and take Animal Crossing to new heights. When do you think the next Animal Crossing will come out, and what are your thoughts on what the next game will contain? Let me know in the comments below. and I'll see you all in the next one.